The pool shimmered like a sheet of glass under the August sun, its surface daring me to break it. I stood frozen on the edge, my toes curling against the warm concrete, watching ripples dance where Lena had just dived in. Her laugh, bright and unapologetic, sliced through the suburban quiet, pulling my gaze to her like a magnet. I'd moved to this sleepy Colorado neighborhood 3 months ago, a 25-year-old graphic designer escaping the chaos of Denver for a fresh start. My new house, a modest ranch style with peeling paint, sat next to Lena's pristine 2-story home, where she lived alone, her life a mystery wrapped in confidence. She was 27, blonde, with a laugh that could unravel you and eyes that seemed to know too much. That morning, her invitation had come casually, tossed over the fence while I watered my half-dead roses. "Hey, Riley, come swim. It's too hot to pretend we're not melting." I'd hesitated. I wasn't the type to dive into anything, pools, conversations, or feelings. Growing up in a small town, I'd learned to keep my head down, my heart quieter. My parents, devout and traditional, had raised me to believe love was a straight line. Man, woman, marriage, kids. Anything else was a sin, a secret to bury. So I did. I buried it through high school, through college, through every awkward date with men who felt like puzzles I couldn't solve. But Lena was a curve I couldn't ignore. She surfaced now, water streaming down her face, her red bikini catching the light like a warning. "You gonna stand there all day, Riley, or join me?" she called, her voice teasing but soft, like she knew I was teetering on an edge bigger than the pool. I forced a smile, my navy swimsuit suddenly feeling too tight, too exposing. I wasn't ready for this, whatever this was. I slid into the water, the cold biting my skin, grounding me. Lena swam closer, her movements effortless, her eyes locked on mine. "You're quiet today," she said, floating just near enough that I could feel the warmth of her presence through the cool water. "Something on your mind?" I wanted to say this. The way my heart's hammering like I'm doing something wrong. Instead, I shrugged, splashing water to mask my nerves. "Just not used to this." Neighbors being friendly. She laughed, low and knowing. "Friendly, huh? Is that what we're calling it?" Her words hung between us, heavy with possibility. I felt my cheeks burn, not from the sun. Lena had a way of seeing through me, like she could read the parts of myself I'd locked away. Over the past weeks, she'd been a constant presence, dropping off homemade cookies, inviting me to watch old movies on her couch, her arm brushing mine just long enough to make me question everything. Each moment with her felt like a step toward a cliff, thrilling and terrifying. I wasn't sure if I wanted to jump or run. "Riley," she said now, her voice softer, serious. She drifted closer, her shoulder grazing mine as we floated in the deep end. "You ever feel like you're hiding from something? Like you're scared to want what you want?" My breath caught. The question was a mirror, reflecting every doubt, every longing I'd buried. I looked at her, her face so close, her eyes searching mine with a tenderness that made my chest ache. I wanted to answer, to spill everything. My fears, my confusion, the way her smile made me feel alive in a way I'd never known. But the words stuck, heavy as stones. Instead, I ducked under the water, letting the cold silence swallow me. When I surfaced, Lena was still there watching, waiting. She didn't push, but her gaze said she wasn't going anywhere. That night, lying in bed, I couldn't shake the image of her wet hair clinging to her shoulders, her question echoing in my mind. I'd spent my life running from who I might be, but Lena was pulling me toward it, one swim at a time. The next morning, I found a note slipped under my door, written in Lena's bold, looping handwriting. "Come back tomorrow. The water's waiting." My heart raced. I was already in too deep. The note lay on my kitchen counter all day, taunting me. Lena's words, simple yet electric, seemed to pulse with a challenge. "Come back tomorrow. The water's waiting." I read it a dozen times, each loop of her handwriting tightening the knot in my chest. By noon, I was pacing my living room, the Colorado sun streaming through the windows, mocking my indecision. I wasn't just afraid of the pool or Lena's teasing smiles. I was afraid of myself, of the part of me that woke up at night, replaying the way her shoulder brushed mine in the water, the way her question, "You ever feel like you're hiding?" had cracked something open inside me. I'd grown up in a world of rules, where love was a box too small for me to fit in. My parents' voices still echoed, their warnings about unnatural desires ringing louder than my own heartbeat. But Lena was rewriting those rules, and I didn't know how to keep up. That afternoon, I stood at the fence separating our yards, clutching a tray of brownies I'd baked as an excuse. I knocked on her back door, my pulse hammering. When Lena opened it, barefoot in a loose tank top and shorts, her smile was like sunlight breaking through clouds. "Riley, you brought food? You're spoiling me," she teased, stepping aside to let me in. Her kitchen smelled of lavender and coffee, a mix that felt like her. Warm, bold, unexpected. We sat at her table, the brownies untouched, and talked about nothing: movies, the weather, the neighbor's yappy dog. But every pause felt charged, every glance a question. When she reached for a brownie, her fingers brushed mine, and I froze, heat flooding my face. "You're blushing," she said, her voice gentle but playful. "Am I making you nervous?" I laughed, too loud, and shook my head. "No, I don't know. I'm not good at this." "At what?" she asked, leaning closer, her eyes pinning me in place. "This," I gestured vaguely, my hands betraying my panic. "Being close to someone." Lena's smile softened, but she didn't back away. "You don't have to be good at it, Riley. You just have to be you." Her words hit like a wave, washing away my defenses. I want to tell her everything. How I'd spent years pretending, how her presence made me feel seen for the first time. But fear clawed at me, whispering that this was wrong, that I'd lose everything if I let myself feel this. That evening, we swam again. The pool was cooler, the sky streaked with pink and orange. Lena floated beside me, her voice low as she told me about her life. Growing up in California, coming out at 19, the family who'd embraced her and the friends who hadn't. Her story was a map of courage I didn't know how to follow. "You ever think about it?" she asked, her eyes catching the fading light. "Telling the truth about who you are?" I swallowed hard, my throat tight. "I don't even know who that is anymore," I admitted, the words slipping out before I could stop them. Lena reached for my hand under the water, her touch light but steady. "You'll figure it out," she said, "and I'll be here when you do." Her fingers lingered, and for the first time, I didn't pull away. The warmth of her hand felt like a promise, one I wasn't ready to make but couldn't refuse. That night, I dreamed of water, of Lena, of a world where I wasn't afraid to dive in. The dreams didn't stop. Every night, Lena's face haunted me, her smile, her voice, the way her touch lingered like a spark. By the fourth day, I was a mess, torn between wanting to run to her and wanting to board up my heart for good. I avoided the pool that morning, choosing instead to hide in my studio, sketching designs for a client. But my pencil kept tracing her jawline, her eyes, the curve of her lips. Each stroke felt like a confession, one I wasn't ready to speak aloud. When my phone buzzed with a text from Lena, "Missed you in the water today. Everything okay?" I stared at it for 10 minutes, my thumb hovering over the reply button. I typed, "Just busy. Maybe tomorrow." But I didn't hit send. Instead, I walked to her house, my heart pounding like a drum. When she opened the door, her face lit up, and I felt the ground shift beneath me. "Riley, you're here," she said, stepping onto the porch. "I was starting to think you were avoiding me." I forced a laugh, but it came out shaky. I don't know what I'm doing," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. Lena's expression softened, and she gestured to the porch swing. We sat, the wood creaking under us, the summer air thick with a scent of jasmine. "Talk to me," she said, her voice a lifeline. I told her everything. The words poured out, my childhood, the sermons about sin, the years spent trying to be someone I wasn't. I told her about the fear that choked me, the longing I'd buried, the way her presence made both feel unbearable and beautiful. She listened, her eyes never leaving mine, her hand resting close but not touching, giving me space to breathe. When I finished, my face was wet with tears I hadn't noticed falling. Lena reached out, her thumb brushing a tear from my cheek. "You're not broken, Riley," she said. "You're just you. And that's enough." Her words cracked me open, and for the first time, I didn't feel like I was drowning. I felt like I was swimming towards something real. That night, we sat by the pool, our feet dangling in the water, the stars above us bright and endless. Lena told me about her first love, a girl in college who'd broken her heart but taught her to be fearless. I envied that courage, but with her beside me, I felt it stirring in myself. "Riley," she said, her voice low, "if you ever want to try being fearless, I'm right here." I looked at her, the moonlight painting her face in silver, and my heart said yes before my mind could argue. I leaned in, my lips brushing hers, soft and tentative. She kissed me back, gentle but sure, and the world fell away. It was my first real kiss, and it felt like coming home. The kiss changed everything. It was a spark that set my world ablaze, burning away the walls I'd built around myself. But with the fire came fear, creeping in like smoke, whispering that this couldn't last. The next morning, I woke with Lena's taste still on my lips, my heart racing with equal parts joy and dread. I wanted to run to her, to kiss her again, to lose myself in the warmth of her arms. But the weight of my past, of my parents' voices, of a town that judged what it didn't understand, held me back. I avoided her all day, ignoring her texts, staying inside with the curtains drawn. By evening, guilt gnawed at me. I was a coward, running from the one thing that felt right. When Lena knocked on my door, her face etched with worry, I couldn't hide anymore. "Riley, what's going on?" she asked, stepping inside. Did we go too far?" Her vulnerability broke me. I shook my head, my voice trembling. "It's not you. It's me. I'm scared, Lena. Scared of what this means, of what happens if I let myself want you." She took my hand, her grip firm. "You don't have to have all the answers now," she said. "But you don't have to face it alone either." Her words were a lifeline, and I clung to them. Over the next week, we fell into a rhythm, swimming in her pool, sharing dinners, stealing kisses that felt like secrets and promises. Each moment with her made me bolder, but the fear never fully left. I hadn't told anyone about us, not even my best friend back in Denver. The thought of saying it aloud, of claiming this part of myself, felt like stepping into a storm. One evening, as we lay on a blanket by the pool, Lena traced circles on my palm. "Have you thought about telling your family?" she asked, her voice careful. My stomach twisted. "They'd never understand," I said. "They'd see it as a betrayal." Lena's eyes softened, but there was a fire in them. "You're not betraying anyone by being yourself, Riley. You're choosing to live." Her words stayed with me, but so did the fear. That night, I got a call from my mom. Her voice was warm, familiar, but it carried the weight of expectation. "When are you coming home, Riley? We miss you. Maybe it's time to meet a nice guy, settle down." I froze, the phone heavy in my hand. I wanted to tell her about Lena, about the woman who made my heart sing, but the words wouldn't come. I mumbled something vague and hung up, my chest tight with shame. Lena found me crying on my couch later that night. She didn't ask questions, just held me, her arms a safe harbor. "You'll get there," she whispered. "One step at a time." But the steps felt impossible, and the storm was getting closer. The storm hit 2 weeks later. My parents showed up unannounced, their SUV pulling into my driveway on a quiet Saturday morning. I was in Lena's kitchen, laughing over burnt pancakes, when I saw them through the window. My heart stopped. "Riley, you okay?" Lena asked, following my gaze. I couldn't speak. I hadn't told them about Lena, hadn't prepared them, or myself, for this. I rushed home, my hands shaking as I opened the door. My mom hugged me, her perfume familiar and suffocating. My dad's smile was tight, his eyes scanning the house like he was looking for something to fix. "We wanted to surprise you," Mom said. "You've been so distant lately." I forced a smile, my stomach churning. Over coffee, they asked about my job, my life, their questions laced with the same expectations I'd always known. When Mom mentioned a nice boy from their church, I felt Lena's absence like a physical ache. She was next door, waiting, and I was here pretending. That evening, Lena texted, "Want me to come over? Moral support?" I wanted to say yes, but fear won. I replied, "Not tonight. I'll explain later." The next day, my parents suggested a barbecue, inviting neighbors to get to know the community. I knew Lena would come. She was too bold, too herself, to stay away. When she arrived, her smile was warm but guarded, her eyes searching mine for answers. "Riley, introduce us," Mom said, her tone polite but curious. "This is Lena," I said, my voice unsteady. "My neighbor." Lena's smile faltered, but she shook their hands, her charm effortless. Throughout the barbecue, she was polite, funny, everything I loved about her. But every time her hand brushed mine, I pulled away, terrified my parents would see the truth in my eyes. That night, after they left, Lena confronted me. "Neighbor," she said, her voice sharp with hurt. "Is that all I am to you?" "No," I said, tears stinging my eyes. I panicked. "I'm not ready for them to know." Lena's face softened, but her eyes were sad. "I can't keep being your secret, Riley. I love you, but I need you to choose yourself, too." Her words hit like a punch. She loved me, and I loved her, but I was too afraid to say it. She left, and I sat alone, the weight of my silence crushing me. The next morning, my parents announced they were staying another week. I felt trapped, torn between the life I'd always known and the one I wanted with Lena. I had to choose, but every option felt like a loss. The week dragged on, each day a battle between my heart and my fear. Lena kept her distance, her texts short, her smiles rare. I missed her like air, but my parents' presence was a constant reminder of the world I'd come from, a world that didn't have room for us. One afternoon, while my parents napped, I slipped into Lena's backyard. The pool was still, reflecting the gray clouds above. She was there, sitting on the edge, her feet in the water. She looked up, her eyes guarded but soft. "I'm sorry," I said, my voice breaking. "I didn't mean to hurt you." Lena sighed, patting the space beside her. I sat, our shoulders close but not touching. "I know you're scared," she said. "But hiding who you are, it's killing you, Riley. I see it." She was right. The weight of my silence was suffocating, but the thought of telling my parents felt like stepping off a cliff. "What if they hate me?" I whispered. "Then you'll still have you," she said. "And you'll have me." Her words gave me courage, but it wasn't enough. Not yet. That night, I lay awake, replaying every moment with Lena, the kisses, the laughter, the way she made me feel whole. I knew I couldn't keep running. The next day, I took my parents to a local cafe, my hands trembling as I prepared to speak. Over coffee, I told them about Lena. Not everything, not yet, but enough. "She's important to me," I said, my voice shaking. "More than a friend." The silence that followed was deafening. My mom's face froze, her eyes wide with shock. My dad's jaw tightened, his coffee untouched. "Riley," Mom said finally, her voice strained, This isn't you. You're confused. I'm not, I said, tears falling. I'm finally figuring out who I am. They didn't yell. They didn't disown me. But their silence hurt more than words could. They left the next day, promising to talk later. I felt raw, exposed, but also free, like I'd taken my first real breath in years. Lena was waiting when I got home. I fell into her arms, crying, laughing, a mess of emotions. You did it, she whispered, kissing my forehead. You're so brave. I wasn't sure I believed her, but with her beside me, I felt like I could be. The days after my parents left were a blur of relief and uncertainty. They hadn't called, hadn't texted, and the silence was a wound I carried quietly. But Lena was there, her presence a steady light in the storm. We spent every evening together, swimming, talking, building a world that felt like ours. I told my best friend in Denver about us, my voice shaking but proud. She cried with me, hugged me through the phone, and for the first time, I felt like I wasn't alone in this. One night, as we floated in the pool under a starlit sky, Lena took my hand. I'm proud of you, she said, her voice thick with emotion. You're choosing yourself. I kissed her, slow and deep, the water cool around us, the world warm with possibility. I'm choosing us, I said and meant it. Months later, I got a letter from my mom. It was short, careful, but it was a start. We're trying to understand, she wrote. We love you. It wasn't acceptance, not yet, but it was hope. Lena and I built a life together, one swim at a time. The pool where it all began became our sanctuary, a place where I learned to be fearless, to love without shame. I wasn't perfect, and neither was our story, but it was ours, messy, beautiful, and true. As winter came, we sat by the covered pool, wrapped in blankets, planning a future I'd never dared to dream of. Lena leaned against me, her warmth grounding me. You ready for this? She asked, her smile bright. I nodded, my heart full. I'm ready for you. And for the first time, I knew I was.